I am your host, Nicole Will, and we're so happy you're here as we navigate the world with your aging loved one. We are here to come alongside older adults, family members, and the senior living community as we explore the world of aging and elder care with helpful resources, informative interviews, and approachable conversation. We get to do this together, so join us on our journey, and this is the Will Gather podcast. Did you know that 70% of the world's aging population lives in economically developing countries? There is a lack of resources for this vulnerable population. My guest today is Stacy Shewey. She is the founder and CEO of Hands for Life, a nonprofit organization that pairs orphan children with orphaned seniors to create a beautiful new family. Stacy's experience in the hospitality industry and in the senior living industry, she felt called to take all that she had learned to those developing nations. While we are located in the U.S. and know that we have challenges here, few realize that we are in a global aging crisis where there is no playbook or plan to care for the vulnerable and forgotten senior population. With this mission, Hands for Life is meeting the needs through creating intergenerational homes, providing community outreach and education in these developing nations. Stacy is striving for that generational change. We're talking about Hands for Life vision and mission as we want people to take action to support this wonderful mission. We also look at supporting the caregiver, what that looks like not only for Hands for Life, but personally, and also our experiences of being the recipient of caregiving and our emotions around that and how it brings us to places where we can then support others that are in that caregiving role and how we can equip and empower those around us. I'm so glad Stacy is here to share her mission and vision with all of us and bring it to life so we can support the wonderful work that they are doing. Here is my interview with Stacy Shewey. Hi, Stacy. We get to meet and visit today, which I've been looking forward to. I have so appreciated how you're striving to make change in many different ways. So thank you for being here. I so appreciate it.
Thank you. I am looking forward to our time together too.
So we were connected. I'm trying to remember how we were connected. It could have been through James Lee, who is someone we both admire as well. And I'm so happy our paths cross. We have different missions, yet the same, and how we are wanting to empower people to think differently about pairing the generations. And you are striving for that generational change.
Well, I started an organization named Hands for Life 3 years ago. And what we are doing is we are focusing on the aging population. And we want to care for them, but we don't want to just build buildings and assisted living. I really want to get to contributing to a solution of why are seniors considered inherently less valuable? Why is there abuse and neglect and abandonment? And so how do we solve that? How do we help shed light on those issues? And I found it's to go to the younger generation. We have to train up that younger generation about what I call the lost commandment of honoring your mother and father. Mm-hmm. And so we're striving for teaching them the circle of life. Your parents took care of you, and then there comes a time when you must care for them. So what we are doing is we are pairing orphan children in developing countries with orphaned seniors. And we pair them together in an intergenerational home. And that way the seniors impart their wisdom to the children, and the children learn to honor and respect their elders.
It's a beautiful mission and one that is very needed. There's that global crisis of aging around the world, and it looks different in those developing countries. What are you finding is the status of what care looks like in developing nations?
Yeah, you're right that we're in a global aging crisis where 60% of the world's aging population live in developing nations. And this is a place where there is no nonprofits caring for the aging. Their government doesn't have retirement income for them. They don't have Social Security. They don't have organizations like AARP who are their voice. Mm-hmm. So it is a challenge, and there's lots of problems in these developing countries. We need to really focus on educating caregivers of the aging process and diseases, because they don't understand the different chronic diseases, and they don't understand what Alzheimer's is and dementia. And so what happens is when mom starts speaking goofy and she doesn't remember who you are, or dad becomes aggressive, they think that their loved one is possessed by a demon.
Interesting.
And they shun them and abandon them, or they try to do an exorcism. And so there's a lot of education around diet and just training too. We're going to go in and train caregivers on what is the proper way to transfer mom from the bed to a chair without dropping or hurting, So basic things, but our vision, our big vision, is to get to that younger generation, train them up, and that we empower this generation with job training skills, life skills, and we train them with the armor, the spiritual armor of God, to go out in their country and care for their own elders. So it's not Hands for Life, a foreign agency, going in and saving the day. We have a 5-acre campus, and it's a training campus. It has the intergenerational home, but it has a training facility for that younger generation. So we wrap up our assisted living model to them, put a bow on it, say, go, take care of your own. So we equip them and empower them.
Which is how it should be. The people that are in the community to feel empowered to make that change. And you're pairing those two most vulnerable groups, which is the young children and those aging adults, together to find that purpose. And I know when you and I had visited before, I just felt it was so meaningful when you shared how the older adults find purpose by being able to share and impart what they've learned and the skills that they've acquired with those youth that are learning and trying to figure out what life looks like for them, but giving them then the means to be equipped with skills that they could take on and progress in life and hopefully be successful at that.
Yeah, it is important. I was raised in an intergenerational home. My grandparents lived downstairs from us, and that's what my love for that older generation comes from, because I got to experience it firsthand, the benefits of learning from them, culture and just all of that wisdom. My grandparents went through the Great Depression, so I got to learn all that history. And to this day, I can't use, a Ziploc baggie without rinsing it out, or a full paper towel. I got to tear them in half, They instilled so many lessons, life lessons and values. So it's important that we get the word out there that, the grandparents and grandchild relationship is so valuable.
And to keep talking about that and sharing that. I think we lose that as we go on. Life gets busy. There's a focus on youth. We've got that. We're not as revering our older adults as much as maybe we did, in the past in those generations, and keeping the conversation going, that how important that is. And we share that. My grandma lived with our family when I was growing up, and I learned so much from her. She taught me how to knit. She taught me how to pair outfits together. She was super fashionable. She had a love of golf, all the things that I might not have learned if she wasn't in our home. And so the benefit of the life stories and the history and the learning and all of that was so, so important to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And, studies have shown that it's a win-win with these two generations. In our Hands for Life campus, we have a career workshop. And so the seniors will teach the children, these orphan children, their trade, whether it's woodworking or metalworking, or if they're out in the fields doing agriculture, growing the crops. They are passing that on to that generation, and it gives them purpose. It makes, them feel useful and honored, and, so important, so important.
Well, I'm excited, and we're going to keep talking about that a little bit too. What I think is really going to be fun about our time today is we're talking about a couple different things that are relevant but meaningful to us. And part of that is not only are you supporting caregivers with your organization, but we've both experienced needing to receive care by caregivers in that recipient role. And because of your story, I'm really looking forward to having you share more about that, about how we can not only support caregivers in our life, but what that dynamic looks like as we are a care recipient and receive care. Because I think some of us go in and out of that role, and it helps us shape our lens on that. I know for me, my personal experience, I had a surgery and then I had some back issues, and I'm doing wonderful now, but it put me in a really vulnerable place of needing support and care that I hadn't experienced before. And you feel like, and sometimes I felt guilty that people were doing so much, or I felt like a burden because I was taking time out of someone else's day. And it had me thinking about, gosh, what does that look like when people in our life, or mom or dad or older adults, need that care over time, and what that can do to our mindset or self-esteem and things like that. So let's talk about that. I know that that's a part of your story as well, and what's shaped who you are today.
Yeah, it is hard. My father is 91, my mother will be 80 in a month, and they're pretty independent, but they push back in like accepting care, like, let me help you with that. No, no, no.
Yeah.
So it is, there's a whole psychology around allowing, that to sink in, that as you age, you have to accept care. And I've had my first experience with it this year. I've had just a horrible, we cannot wait to get out of 2022. We've had a terrible, terrible year here personally. In March, I was diagnosed with cancer. And so February, April, and May, those months were just coming up with a game plan, all kinds of doctor's appointments and a game plan in preparation for my surgery that was in June. So I had to really think about how self-care, like, I now need to pay attention to myself. I'm sick and I'm going to have a battle in front of me, and I got to allow others to do things for me. I have to look at my nutrition and all of those things, right? So I was gearing up for that. So June 2nd, I had my surgery, and flowers are coming in, meals are coming in from friends. And I'm like, okay, I'll be a good patient and let people care for me.
Yes.
Well, then on June 5th, just 3 days after my surgery, we got that phone call that every parent just dreads. And my son had fallen off of a cliff into a stone quarry, and he was just 24 years old. Stacy. And so now all of a sudden, my world has just been turned upside down, and no longer self-care. No. Like, who cares about me? Yeah. I now need to reverse the role again and be the caregiver. I have 2 other children, my husband, my parents, who all need me. And I had 6 days to plan a celebration of life. Well, I am just out of surgery, many wounds, and it was like planning a wedding for 200 people. People flying in, have to figure out food, have to figure out memorial tributes, all that kind of stuff. So now I went into that caregiver mode again, and then back into July and August was radiation treatments. And so now I need to be cared for again. And all of that stuff that you were talking about, where you feel the guilt of people as women, I don't know, maybe it's a woman thing that we have a hard
Take it
time
on.
accepting that help, like you're busy, don't worry about me, I will be fine. And so, we just flipped in and out. 2 weeks ago, my husband lost his job. He was laid off from his job. And
So sorry.
so life just keeps coming at us, and it is my strength through God that I'm able to move on and stay focused on my work and stay focused on all the goodness in my life. But man, it is hard. And I think that I just went a couple of weeks ago to help a cousin who just had a newborn baby, and she had the newborn and she has a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old. So I remember those times. I have 3 children, taking care of all of them, and you're exhausted. So I went to help her and to pour into her. And I just ran out of steam after like 3 days. I was pooped, and she recognized it. And so the one night I said, you know what, I'm just going to go in my bedroom and read, and I just need a time, downtime. And she kicked into that caregiver mode, and she drew me a bubble bath and put soft music on, lit candles. And so it just really hit me that here I was going to help her, but yet she turned around and was helping me. So we, through life, have to just really stay connected with people and recognize that we have to care for each other all through life, right? Every part of life, somebody, is going to have to care for you, and you have to give it back. So important to recognize that.
Well, first, know that my arms are sending you the biggest hug. I know what an incredibly hard year that this has been for you, and you have so much grace, and I know that that was incredibly difficult and still is to walk through each day. And your mission, I know, keeps you moving forward, and the people in your life that love and support you. So we are here. I'm here from afar, but I know that nothing takes away that pain. It's just it's gonna be cyclical, right? And it comes and it goes, and it lives there, but yet it can shape us in new ways to know how to then have compassion and empathy for others around us. So yeah,
Absolutely.
it's incredibly
Absolutely.
hard.
Everything for a reason. Everything for a reason. And I can see the good. I can find good in, the tragedy and in the storm. And I can see how God uses it and is helping people. And it is amazing.
Yeah. And your son was really influential with Hands for Life as well, and made such a great impact. How did he touch others in the work that he did?
Well, we're a missionary family. So from the time the kids were little, we loved to go on the mission field and serve others. And the one year we gave the kids a choice, like, what are we going to do for summer vacation? We said we could go take a bike ride trip, we could go to Disney, or we can do a mission trip to Haiti. And I was rooting for Disney. That's what I wanted. I hadn't been there, and the kids haven't been there. And hands down, they were like, mission trip. And I was just floored, like, wow. So we served in Haiti, which is just life-changing. Serving on the mission field it does change you forever when you see. I say that there really are no poor people here in America when you see what
completely
is.
Yes.
We have, homeless shelters. Anybody could walk into an emergency room and get care. People in these developing nations, have nothing, no support, no anything. So Alex, he was a person who nailed the second commandment. He knew how to love everybody unconditionally. He didn't care what color skin you had, what you identified with, where you were from. He just loved unconditionally. So he lived his life like that. And we need to learn to love like Alex loved. And He just graduated with an aviation management degree, and he was going to be our missionary pilot. So big loss for us, but his legacy will carry on. Our project in Nigeria, when the elders who are in our Hands for Life program heard about Alex's passing, they decided to name our intergenerational campus in his honor. So we have the Alexander Shewey Intergenerational Memorial Home in Nigeria.
Wow.
So it's a visual reminder of my son's legacy. And my daughter too, she got that mission bug and wants to serve, and her heart tugs with the children. So we have both generations. So she will focus on the children, and my tug is on the seniors, so it's well-rounded in our family.
It is. You can come together with each of your different gifts and talents. I had the opportunity when I was in high school to go to Guatemala and El Salvador on more of a missions trip. I was able to, we brought medical supplies and education and, just basic hygiene and teaching people how to brush their teeth and things like that. And you're so right in that I had never experienced anything like it. And the people were incredibly warm, and here they had nothing, absolutely nothing. And they had joy. I mean, you could see the smiles. And yes, there were situations where there was challenge and there was struggle. But I just was struck by, the level of poverty that I had never seen, and the amount of just joy that they had when we would interact with them. And so it just left an impression on me. I think it's so important to experience. We underestimate, I believe, the children's desire to want to give and to want to help. Like, you brought your kids to Haiti, and when they were young, or when I'll bring my kids to the nursing home with me to visit, they light up. There's this something inside of them that comes to life when they can learn at that young age to interact and be in different situations, but also to be able to give back and make someone's day. It's just important to be able to model that.
Yeah. Absolutely. In Hands for Life, we have a lot of opportunities for people to do that. We do mission trips, and we have corporate sponsorships where in the senior living industry, where if a assisted living place partners with us, they can do Zoom calls with our residents in different countries and learn about each other, kind of like a pen pal thing. But we also have a sponsorship program. Sponsor a child, sponsor a senior, so sponsor a grandparent, sponsor grandchildren. And I know you took advantage of that. And tell me about how that has touched you, and you have your son involved too, don't you?
Right. Yeah. So when I had learned about you and your organization, and when I learned more about it, it tugged on my heart and I wanted to connect with someone in another country. And so you had shared a picture of a woman named Catherine, and I think I wrote you or did something and was like, I'm going to adopt this person. So I sent her a video message just letting her know a little bit about me, and then we'll continue to correspond in the future, which I'm looking forward to. I think it's important that we get so focused on what's happening in our immediate world and right in front of us, and that's important as well. But we are all globally connected now more than ever, and we have the ability to kind of span or cross the oceans and reach out with people in different areas. And so that was important to me to do that. And then not only that, but then share with everybody else that they can do that also. So for all of the senior living listening, or older adults or younger people, that they have the ability to make an impact and to do that. And so go visit Hands for Life and support them. I think it's really important.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, God has no borders, right? So we are all his children.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter where you live. And Hands for Life is a first of its kind organization. There's no other missionary organization out there that I can find that is doing what we are doing. And it's such important work. We're caring, like you said, for the two vulnerable populations, the children and the elderly, by bringing them together. And the ripple effects are so great. And we're stimulating their economy. We're creating jobs. We're teaching them. We're empowering them. And we're giving them hope. So it is a beautiful vision and mission. And I do encourage everybody to, reach out to me if they're looking for a way to get involved globally. You can come meet Catherine and really have that lifelong connection and see how you can personally make a difference very powerfully in somebody's life.
Yes. And when we had talked about just the ways that we've received care and supporting those caregivers, you do that for the people that are providing the care for those older adults and those children. And you touched on it a little bit, but what are all those ways that you equip people to then care for that population?
Yeah, so we have community outreach. Not only do we have our 5-acre training campus, but we go into the community and we have families who are struggling to care for their children and families who are struggling to care for their aging parent. And we partner with them and we give them education and financial support. So we'll give food, medical supplies, wheelchairs, medication. But what we do is we use short-term missionaries. So missionaries will come, and all kinds of missionaries, evangelical missionaries, medical missionaries, all different people who have gifts in various areas. And we pour into the people and we educate those caregivers so that we know the studies show that if a caregiver does not have support or resources, that's where they get frustrated and abuse goes up and neglect goes up. So we want to teach these families and give them the resources to equip them to care for their loved one and understand what is going on within them. We talked about our feelings as a caregiver and our frustrations and the burdens a caregiver has. So we need to help them understand those feelings and validate those and give them the resources to care for themselves first. Because it's kind of like, the oxygen mask in the airplane. They put it on you first, then you can help others. Yeah. So we got to focus on those caregivers. And that's true worldwide, right? Here in the States, there's lots of good organizations that focus on giving resources and care to the caregivers. So important.
It is. And when we've experienced that, just like you were saying, we can identify that when we see that in other people that, I think we need to come in and offer that help and support because we've been there and we know how challenging that is. So being able to take what we've learned and impart a little bit of that wisdom. In the developing countries, you had mentioned that you're really the first of its kind to provide this kind of support. Are you noticing, or are there other caregiver support organizations that could provide resources, or not so much? What are you seeing there?
I have not found any other organization yet who's focused on that.
Yeah.
We have a lot of work to do. We are in the process of building out all of our programming. So we've been in existence for 3 years. There's a lot of work to do. Right now, we're fundraising. We're trying to get support for this, to build this intergenerational home. We have to raise $3 million to do this. And that will be for the operations and for the build of it. But while we're fundraising, we're also working on the programming. What does this look like? What is the best way that we can care for seniors? What's the best way to build an assisted living because there's no regulations that we have to worry about. So we can really collaborate with senior living industry experts from all around the world to say, what is needed? What does this look like? We're using biophilic design on the building of the campus, using nature to incorporate that into the design principles that increase longevity and also well-being in our projects. So we're looking for people to come alongside us, to collaborate with us. And what does our program look like? What are these caregivers need? So, we don't want to recreate the wheel because there's all kinds of programming already that is fabulous. So we're in the search for people to say, hey, we do that here in the States or in a developed country and have great success. Let me come alongside you and show you what we're doing and let's implement that. So we're pulling James Lee, you mentioned, a dementia care expert. We're pulling his knowledge and his resources. We have DK Levy, architect, and 828 interior design firms pulling their expertise in designing senior living and using biophilic design. I mean, just incredible experts coming forward to create this first of its kind care and model. So we're kind of a petri dish, Hands for Life project, and the senior living world is looking at what we're going to do, what we can do together, and then take those elements that do work and change the way we care here. Because we know there's a lot of room for improvement in our care for the seniors here. So we can do that without restrictions and test the waters and see what works. So kind of interesting.
It is. And you're pulling in some of the best partners to take on that mission with you, which is going to be, I just can't wait to see it all come together. I'm so excited for you. I know that there are big things ahead. And as you build this community to support your mission. So where can people learn more? Where, if this has tugged on people's heartstrings, where can we learn more?
They could go to our website, and it's H4L world.org. So H4Lworld.org. They can go there and get lots of information, or on LinkedIn, they can find me on LinkedIn and message me there.
Thank you, Stacy. I've just enjoyed our conversation. I really felt strongly about wanting to share about Hands for Life and you and what you're doing and get people involved. I believe so much in it. So I appreciate your time today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nicole. I appreciate all that you're doing to move our vision and mission forward. You're quite a blessing.
Thank you for listening today. If you enjoyed our episode, please subscribe and give us 5 stars. In all honesty, we'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for listening to our episode.